Now we sit for meditation. Gentlemen should sit in the cross-legged position, while ladies, who are not accustomed to sitting in the cross-legged position, can sit with their feet to one side if they prefer. You should have your right hand on your left hand, with both hands palm upwards, resting gently in your lap. The index finger of your right hand should be touching gently against the thumb of your left hand, both hands resting gently in your lap. Make sure your body is in an upright position without slouching forward or leaning too far back, so that both your circulation and your breathing are relaxed and unimpeded. Because everything about the meditation ought to be relaxed. If you are too forced as to your posture, then you will not be comfortable. If you are slouching, then you will get aches and pains. So close your eyes very gently, with your eyelids very gently touching closed. Never squeeze your eyes closed, and make sure there's no pressure around your eyes. Just close your eyes in an ordinary way. For meditation it is necessary to relax our mind, and in this respect the Lord Buddha taught the words Jako Patinisako Vimutti Analayo, that we must let go of all things, not being attached to them. Not being attached to our physical body, whether we feel stiff or whether we feel uncomfortable, we should just ignore these things. We mustn't worry about them, because the body we are using for meditation is only like a tool for the mind, to be used in order to reach liberation. Liberation from defilements, in order to reach towards nirvana. Our body is only transient, and we have only temporary use of it. Thus, no matter what may happen, we will not be interested in our body. We must let go of attachment for our body and even for our life. Something we let go of in homage to the teachings of the Lord Buddha. So, no matter what happens, we will not be attached to or worried about our bodily condition. We're going to bring our mind to a standstill. It's our only aim in life, to train the mind to a point where it can be pure and clear, to attain the body of enlightenment inside, not only attaining it, but to become one and the same as it, to know who is our real, true self inside. That is, the body of enlightenment of the Arahant inside of us. And to reach this point in our meditation can be said to be our obligation as a human being, as the Lord Buddha used the words katang karaniyang, something which we have to do for as long as our body is still viable. Once our mind comes to a standstill, we will be able to liberate ourselves from the cycle of existence. So there is no use in being attached to our own body or the bodies of other people, especially those of our relatives or of our husband or wife, because all of these things end up bringing us suffering eventually. They bring us anxiety, absent-mindedness, worries and doubts. They bring all sorts of suffering to us simply because of the fact that we are worried about them. The fact that we are worried about them is because we don't realize our real, true aim in life, the real reason for having our human body in life. Once we don't know about our real aim in life, then it opens the way to hundreds of causes of suffering in our life. So we have to let go of our body. If we don't do it now, then we have to do it anyway at the time when we come to the end of our lives. So we should make our mind relaxed and allow our mind to come to a standstill. Today, as we meditate, we'll take the opportunity to explore the nature of the pathway to nirvana. But before we do that, for those who are newcomers to the meditation, we should familiarize ourselves with the 7 bases of the mind first. According to the original teachings of the Dhammakaya tradition, by the founder, the great abbot of Wat Phak Nam, otherwise known as Prat Mongkon Thep Muni, the originator of this meditation tradition, because he always started by teaching the pathway of the mind, the pathway of all living beings, the pathway by which all beings are born and die, by which the mind enters and leaves the body at conception and death respectively. The first point on this path, the first base of the mind, is at the nostril. For ladies, the left nostril; for gentlemen, the right nostril. The second base of the mind is inside the nose, just next to the corner of the eye. For ladies on the left side, for gentlemen on the right side. The third base is at the center of the skull, on the same level as the eyes. This point and all the subsequent points are the same for ladies and for gentlemen. The fourth base is at the roof of the mouth. The fifth base is at the center of the throat, just above the Adam's apple. The sixth base of the mind is in the middle of the stomach, at the same level as the navel. Supposing you were to take 2 thin threads, the first running from your navel directly through your back on the horizontal axis, and the second running from the right side to the left side, also horizontal on the same level. The point where these 2 lines intersect, no larger than a pinpoint, is called the sixth base of the mind. This is where a sphere of Dhamma is to be found, which is clear and bright, transparent, and about the same size as the yolk of an egg, with its center at the point of intersection of the 2 threads. This sphere of Dhamma is very important, because without this sphere it would be impossible to take birth in human form. If this sphere is bright, your life will prosper, but if this sphere becomes dull or darkened, then it predicts that life will soon bring you problems. Every human being has this sphere at their center, and the existence of the sphere is proof that anyone who makes an effort in their meditation to the point that they can bring their mind to a standstill can succeed in meditation. This is because they don't need to create anything new in their meditation. All they need to do is to tune in their mind to see what is already there. 2 finger breadths above this intersection of the 2 threads. Supposing you were to take your index finger and your middle finger together and to place them on the intersection of the 2 threads, then exactly that distance, the distance of 2 finger breadths above the intersection of the 2 threads, is what we call the 7th base of the mind. It is the precise center of our body, and in fact it's this final point which we are interested in. It's the most important of all the bases, of all 7 which we've already mentioned. Because all the senses, whether it be eye, ear, nose, mouth, or sense of touch, are focused at this point. This point is the place from which we are born and from which the mind leaves the body when we die. When we are born, the spiritual component moves through all the 7 bases of the father. When the father and the mother come together for conception, the spiritual component of the baby to be born comes from the father to the mother, collecting up together with it the physical constituents, going down through the 7 bases of the mind, down to implant itself at the 7th base of the mind of the mother in the womb. When we pass away, it's the reverse process. The mind leaves the body starting from our own 7th base, straight through all the 7 bases, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and leaves our body by the 1st base, that is, via our nostril. It is also the location of our mind at the time of our falling asleep, and also at the time of our waking. When we come to the end of our human life, the mind leaves the body starting from our own seventh base, straight through all seven bases, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, leaving our human body to seek for rebirth somewhere else in the cycle of existence. It doesn't matter whether the next birth will be as an angel or as an animal. If the dying person is destined for a future rebirth, their spirit has to leave the body via the seven bases. However, if we don't want to be reborn anymore, the mind has to leave the body by a different path, which is directly through the center of the seventh base. It is an inward journey for the spirit rather than a journey to take it out of the body. If we are making the inward journey, it is different from making journeys in the outside world, where we have to use our feet to walk or we have to move around. In the outside world we have to think, we have to take action. However, if we want to make the inward journey, we have to start by stopping the mind. The most important point is this one which is 2 finger breadths above the level of the navel in the center of our body. It's here that we have to bring our mind to a standstill, and it's this place which we have to become familiar with. But in practice, you can just remember it as the point which is roughly in the middle of your stomach. The description so far is only just to become familiar with the rough position of the center of the body, so that you know where to place your attention when you're meditating. We have to start by giving ourselves the feeling that our mind has come to a standstill at the center of the body. We can do this by giving ourselves the feeling that our mind is visualizing a sphere or a crystal Buddha image at the center of our body. In fact, it can be any object at all which we are familiar with, which has a positive association for us. All we do is remember such an image or visualize such an image at the center of our body instead. It's a way of seeing an image at the center of our body, not seeing with the eyes, but seeing with the mind. For those of you who can see the blue-colored top view of the Buddha image shown on the computer display or television screen, also this is a very useful image which you can use. Establish your mind at the center of the body, in just the same way that we might tether a wild animal to a tree. We tether the mind to the center of the body by using a visualized mental object. The image is like an anchor to keep the mind at the center of the body the whole of the time. If we bring our mind back here each time it wanders, before long we will find out that the mind will start to stay there the whole of the time. As the mind becomes established at the center of the body, it will become able to fall through the center. In fact, all we need to do is bring our mind to a standstill at the center of the body, to allow the mind to do this. In fact, all we need to do is to bring our mind to a standstill at the center of the body, to allow the mind to do this. It is not necessary to do anything else. Simply doing this will set the conditions that will lead us to the beginning of the pathway in a way which we never expected. Once our mind becomes properly adjusted, the sphere inside ourselves will start to expand outwards, enlarging outwards, becoming softer, and revealing at its center a pathway which leads further inside. We will find that there is only one pathway, a single pathway which leads towards nirvana, a pathway which the Lord Buddha referred to as Ekalyana Magga. It is the mainstream which has no alternative way. Thus, for anyone whose mind is not at a standstill yet, we should use the following advice. we have to pretend to ourselves that our mind is already at the center of the body. In fact, we are fooling ourselves a little bit by assuming that. But from the fact that we are happy to place our mind somewhere in the center of our stomach, even though it might not be exactly at the point of the center of the body, the fact that we allow our mind to be free of worry at that point, and do this the whole of the time, by day and by night, before long the mind will find its own way to the center of the body. Once our mind becomes properly adapted, steadfast at the center, then it will come precisely to the center of the body. We will not see brightness in the beginning, but we will have the feeling that there is spaciousness inside, as if our mind is light in weight and at ease. Sometimes we may feel as if we could almost float. Some people have the lesser feeling, which would be more like mere spaciousness inside, as if the breathing becomes more refined, or as if we are alone in empty space. Sometimes we may feel merely that our body seems to expand inside, and it may do so more in one direction than in another. Sometimes we may feel as if it is expanding upwards, so that we feel that we grow so tall that our head might reach the ceiling. Sometimes it feels as if we were contracting, as if our body were being pulled down towards the ground. Some people feel as if they were falling down through the center of the body. If it is less refined than that, sometimes we may feel as if the body is swaying, as if we were sitting on a boat, or as if we were being rocked in a cradle. If it is less refined than this still, sometimes we may feel as if our hair is standing on end, or we may feel that our heart is beating more vigorously than usual. Sometimes we may feel as if we have lost feeling in part of our body, sometimes just in our legs or in our hands, as if they have become numb, or as if we cannot feel them anymore. When some people come across such feelings, they make a mistake of giving up their meditation, thinking they have not succeeded. But in fact, these are all symptoms that our meditation is nearly at the point of progress. We ought to continue, and we should use our mindfulness to keep ourselves on track, instead of giving up when we come across these sort of experiences. So don't get excited, don't be elated by such experiences, and don't be afraid of anything, not even of death, but maintain your mindfulness and your wisdom, because once your mind reaches the point of equilibrium, you come to the point where there are no thoughts anymore. Even though you try to think, you cannot think of anything anymore. It's not like when you start out in your meditation where, even though you try not to think, you're always thinking about something. It will be almost as if you are not breathing anymore. But even though you're not breathing anymore, you feel that you have more happiness than if you were breathing. Your mind will be steadfast at the center of the body, and your body will seem to be upright of its own accord, so that you have no interest in the outside world anymore. Once your mind has become fully adapted, then the mind will swoop through the center of the body, and there will be a sphere coming up in the opposite direction, which is bright and clear. The smallest size is like a star in the night sky, or like the tip of a needle, very bright but tiny. For some people, for whom it may be of medium size, the sphere won't be the size of the full moon or of the shining sun. These spheres are what we call the sphere of Dhammakaya. It arises at the center of the body. It never arises anywhere else. If it does arise anywhere else, then you know it's not the true experience, but rather a distortion of one's proper meditation experience, something which, technically speaking, we call vipassanupakilesa. But once the mind is properly adapted, we will see things bright and clear, but precisely at the center. It's this Dhammakaya sphere which the great abbot of Wat Phra Gnam referred to as the Dhammanupassana Satipatthana sphere. Loosely translated, it means the sphere of the initial path, because it's the trailhead to the path which will lead us to the noble pathway of all the Buddhist saints. Having seen this sort of thing, then this sort of purity is something which we should try to maintain the whole of the time, whether we are standing, walking, sitting or lying down, eating, or whatever task we may be doing. We should maintain it the whole of the time, reflecting at the center of our body, in order to maintain this state of mind. Whether our eyes are open or closed, we should see it the whole of the time, because this is the start of the pathway towards nirvana. If we can maintain ourselves on this path, then we will be on the right pathway to nirvana for every lifetime. We will never lead a life in an unskillful way anymore, and our life will be a life which is supreme. We will not be living our life by trial and error as we have done in the past. Sometimes when we think back over our life, we regret all the mistakes we have made in our life. But once we come to this point in our meditation, we have stillness of mind as our refuge. We will only make our way towards nirvana from this lifetime onwards, and our attainment of human birth in this life will have been worthwhile. It will have been a lifetime of profit for us, and it will be a sign that we will profit in every life, from this time onwards until we enter upon nirvana. It is something which will close the doors to unfortunate rebirth from this time onwards, so that we will not be able to fall into the unfortunate realms anymore. There will be no more straying from the path, and we will be reborn only in the fortunate realms, whether it be the 6 levels of heaven, the 16 levels of form Brahma realms, or the 4 levels of the formless Brahma realms, or nirvana itself. Therefore, we should give full importance to these experiences, and must train our mind consistently and regularly. If we have not yet attained the Patimamagga sphere, we cannot trust that we will achieve success in life. If we are unable to attain it, then it is as if we have made a loss on our life. We have only things which will bring us regret later in life, and looking back over our life, we will have resentment in retrospect. As for the way in which we should attain the Patimamagga sphere, everyone should let go of all worries in the world, outside and on the inside, everything about the other beings, the environment, and even about ourselves. We should let go of all these things and bring our mind to the center of the body. We must be interested only in our mind, as if we were threading a needle through the center of our mind. Don't use too much effort, don't use too much force when thinking about the center of the body. Think of it as if you were dwelling on something, but do as if you were dwelling on it at the center of your body. And imagine a bright, clear crystal ball, rather like a diamond sphere there, a diamond sphere which has been polished without any blemishes or scratches, about the same size as the tip of our little finger. In fact, any size will do. And imagine this bright and clear, like a diamond. It can be the size of the tip of our little finger, the size of the tip of our index finger, or the size of our eyeball. Simply imagine it gently. The only condition is that you should imagine it gently. If you think of it just in a relaxed way, then it will be clear. But if we use too much effort, it will give us a headache. If you find that you are getting a headache from imagining it, then relax and try again. Make sure that the sphere is bright and clear, spherical. If you can imagine how bright and clear a diamond is, it is about the brightness we ought to be imagining for our crystal ball. Maintain our mind at a standstill at the center of our body, at the 7th base of our mind, because we already know all about this position in our body. Keeping our mind at the center of the body the whole of the time, 2 finger breadths above the 2 threads in the center of our body. Maintain it, remembering the image by imagining it with the mind, not by using our eyes to stare down at the center of our body. If we get the principle now, then we can practice it by ourselves without any problem in the future. But if we don't get it right this time round, then we may be off track every time we practice it in the future. So just relax and work at it slowly. Make sure you get the method right, remembering the bright, clear image at the center of the body, bright and clear, transparent and vivid in our mind, rather as if we were seeing it with our own eyes. But now we are seeing it at the center of our body, maintaining it the whole of the time. So now, may all of you be fulfilled in your wish to attain the triple gem inside yourself. Now each to their own meditation for a few more moments in silence until we come to the appropriate time. Today, as we meditate, we're going to look at the important practice of spreading loving kindness. Because according to the Buddhist scriptures of the Anguttara Nikaya's Ekadasaka Nipata, spreading loving kindness has the following 11 benefits. It allows us to sleep in happiness, wake in happiness, gives us freedom from nightmares, makes us endearing to humans and non-humans alike, affords us protection by guardian angels, protects us against fire, poison and weapons, facilitates our attainment in meditation, and gives us a radiant complexion. It protects us from senile dementia, and if at the end of our life we have still not attained enlightenment, we will attain the Brahma world. For loving kindness, it's important always to keep your mind at a standstill at the center of the body, as continuously as you can, for as long as you can, without letting your mind wander anywhere else. If you find your mind is attracted away by the sounds around you, sensations in your body, or thoughts in your head, as soon as you realize, always bring your mind back again to the center of the body and continue as before. Cultivate your mind in this way as continuously as you can, for as long as you can, with or without the mantra, depending on your chosen style. Our mind remains always at the center of the body, at a standstill at the center, whatever inner experience we have attained for ourselves. For some people it will be like a clear, bright sphere of light at the center of the body. For other people, it will be like a clear Buddha image at the center of the body. For others still, it may be like a feeling of warmth or well-being at the center of the body. Whatever sort of inner experience we have attained for ourselves, we place our attention very gently at the center of that experience, at the very center of the inner experience within ourselves, touching gently with the same lightness as a feather floating down to touch on the surface of some water, so lightly that the feather doesn't even break the surface of the water. In the same way, we touch our attention at the center of the inner experience within ourselves. We touch our mind at the center with just the right amount of attention. What you will soon find is that the inner sphere of the mind will gradually expand outwards in size, expanding outwards in size until it is the same size as the whole of your body, as if we were sitting inside a sphere of our own well-being, or a sphere of our own light. And we make the wish that, may we ourselves be well and happy, may we be free from all suffering. And touching our mind again at the center of the body, the sphere of well-being, or the sphere of light, spreads outwards beyond our own body, spreading outwards in all directions, just like the moonlight shines outwards from the full moon in the night sky, or just like a block of ice spreads coolness in all directions around itself into the surrounding atmosphere. In the same way, we spread our loving kindness in all directions around ourselves, spreading the sphere of loving kindness around ourselves outwards into the room in which we are sitting for meditation, making the wish that, may all beings here in this room be well and happy, be free of all suffering. And we spread our loving kindness further still, spreading it outwards from the center of the body to encapsulate the whole of the building in which we are sitting for meditation, with the wish that may all beings in this building be well and happy, be free of all suffering. And now we spread our loving kindness further outwards still, in all directions around, into the neighbourhood around us. Again, with the wish that may all beings here in this neighbourhood be well and happy, be free of all suffering. And we spread our loving kindness further outwards, in all directions all around, into the whole of the city around us. If you find it easier, you can imagine it as a map seen from above. Then imagine the city so. Spread loving kindness outwards to cover the whole of the map of the city in all directions all around, so that there is no part of the city not touched by the coolness and radiance of loving kindness, again making the wish that may all living beings here in this city be well and happy, be free from all suffering. And we spread our loving kindness further outwards, beyond the city limits, to the whole of the country, outwards to the very borders of the country in all directions all around, spreading loving kindness without exceptions to the very borders of our country in all directions all around, again making the wish that may all beings in this country be well and happy, and be free of all suffering. Now we spread our loving kindness outwards to all the neighbouring countries, all the neighbouring countries all around, spreading loving kindness in all directions to all the living beings without exception, again with the wish that may all these living beings be well and happy, be free from all suffering. And now we spread our loving kindness outwards again to the whole of the continent around us, every country on this continent, so that our loving kindness spreads its coolness and radiance to every country on this continent, again with the wish that may every living being here on this continent be well and happy, be free of all suffering. And now we spread our loving kindness further outwards still, to every continent of the world, whether it be Asia, Europe, Africa, North and South America, Australia or Antarctica, so that there is no corner of the world not touched by the radiance and coolness of our loving kindness, spreading our loving kindness to every place on the surface of our planet, again with the wish that may every living being without exception, whether on the land, in the air or in the sea, be well and happy, be free from all suffering. May all living beings be able to coexist in peace and harmony, so that true peace may prevail on our planet. And we spread our loving kindness in all directions all around, outwards into the universe, to the front and to the back, to the right and the left, above and below, putting our loving kindness outwards into the universe around us, with the wish that wherever there may be living beings, may they too be touched upon by our coolness and radiance given by our loving kindness. In such a way, we spread our loving kindness without limits and without exceptions, outwards into the universe, the galaxies, and the cosmos around us. Long ago, in the time before the Buddha, there was a hermit called Kapila, who used to retire to the seclusion of the forest for meditation. It was his habit to favour the practice of meditation on loving kindness. and this he would practice on a regular basis, by day and by night. Whenever his mind was at ease, he would spread loving-kindness facing east, with the intention that, may all living beings in the direction in front of me, even from the smallest creatures, whether 2-footed, 4-footed, with many legs or no legs at all, in the eastern quarter, be pervaded by my loving-kindness, spread with the purity of my mind. May all these beings enjoy happiness and be free from all suffering. The next day, he might spread loving-kindness in the same way to the western quarter, the northern quarter, the southern quarter, upwards or below. He would spread loving-kindness in this way in all directions, consistently and regularly, until it became his habit. Whenever he slept in happiness, as if slipping into deep meditation. It would bring him joy the whole of the time, and he would have a dreamless sleep. If he ever dreamed, it would be of auspicious things. On waking, he would feel refreshed, free of sleepiness. He always had a very radiant complexion because of his practice, and even if there was danger in his midst, it could never harm him. He was loved and respected by men, angels and the forest creatures alike. He was able to enter upon meditation easily and attain the absorptions quickly, his mind coming to a standstill swiftly, because he was able to let go of external events easily, bearing no anger or grudges towards anyone. His mind was bright at the center of his body, brighter than the sun at midday. As a result of his practice, the forest became abundant with fruit, and as soon as animals which were sworn enemies, like deer and tigers, came into the vicinity of the forest, miraculously they were able to coexist in harmony, because even their minds changed to become filled with loving kindness towards one another, following the example of the hermit. However, when those animals came close to death, they would be unable to stay in the forest, but felt compelled to pass away outside the forest, so as not to pollute the pure atmosphere of the place. Even the creepers and shoots of the plants in the forest coiled auspiciously in a clockwise direction. Later, after many aeons had passed, this place was to become the town of Kapilavastu, in the present-day Nepal, where the Lord Buddha was to grow up. These are some of the fruits of spreading loving kindness, which appear even during the present lifetime. So, having spread loving kindness in this way, we condense our awareness down, back to the center of our body again, taking careful note of the brightness, the clarity, and the feeling of peace and joy at the center of our body. In particular, we should take mental note of the feeling of well-being at the center of our body, remembering this feeling as well as we can, because this feeling of well-being is very important for us. It represents the state of progress in meditation that we have made up till now. If we can remember this feeling as well as we can, the next time we come to meditate again, we can start again from this feeling. And starting again from this feeling, we can continue to make progress in meditation next time from where we left off. So for the last few moments of this meditation, take a few moments to make a mental note of the state of your progress in meditation, remembering the feeling as well as you can. Now for a few more moments, each of their meditation practice in silence.